For the very first time, we are so excited to welcome you to Technically Edinburgh. We are a brand new podcast created by technicians, about technicians, and for, well, everyone. Have you ever wondered what technicians do behind the scenes? What does that job title even mean? And what on earth is a technician commitment? We'll be chatting to staff across the university to find out why technicians are so essential to our work. We can't wait to get started, so grab a drink, get comfy, and let's get Technically Edinburgh.
Hello and welcome to Technically Edinburgh, a podcast for and about technicians at the University of Edinburgh. My name is Lee Murphy.
And I'm Charli Corcoran. And today's episode, our guest is Sarah Little, who's been working as an Anaesthesia Assistant at the University of Edinburgh's Hospital for Small Animals, part of the Royal Dick School of Veterinary Studies since 2017. She's recently been awarded her Associate Fellowship of the Higher Education Academy, and last year she was shortlisted in the 2023 Technician Awards for her contributions to the university's culture, community and the environment. Thank you so much, Sarah, for coming on and joining us today. We can't wait to talk with you about your career and your more recent achievements. We'll start off with an easy topic. Can you give us a brief background? How did you get to where you are now?
Sure. Thank you both for having me on today. So for a brief background, I'll try and keep it as brief as possible. I started my veterinary journey back when I was 14. At the time, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I wanted to work with animals to some degree, particularly dogs, which have always been my passion. And I was lucky enough to get a job at that same veterinary practice where I did my work experience when I was 17. I used to go after school to help out where I could, and even had a summer job there. And the minute I left high school, I was very keen to have a job there, and was lucky enough, as I say, when I was 17. Up until I was 19, I worked there. And from there, I went to work in a busy rural practice where I would probably say I gained the majority of my client and patient experience, and even got the opportunity to run puppy socialisation classes, which were really interesting, and getting to interact with young puppies and owners who were obviously very excited with their new arrivals. And from there on, came to the University of Edinburgh.
It sounds like you followed your passion into this career.
Yes.
So what is it that you do now?
So I work as an anaesthesia assistant, and what that entails is essentially working for the anaesthesia service, which, as you can imagine, is a very busy service in the hospital. We are having to collaborate with every department who require anaesthetics for surgery, for sometimes even just sedation, but they need us to be there for assistance depending on what pre-medication they have. So I'm running about helping the anaesthetists. We have an amazing team of anaesthetists, including residents and nurses, who will do their absolute best for their patients, and I will help those patients get to hopefully have a smooth anaesthetic journey.
It sounds so interesting.
It is. It's very interesting. We get to work with a variety of different people and pets, so there's never a dull day.
I was going to say, every day must be very different.
It is. There's never a dull day, genuinely. Even if you have the same species, there's never a dull moment. You can be walking past the theatre suite and you can be seeing brain surgery. It's genuinely fantastic what you get to see here.
What's the favourite thing about your role?
I'd say it's hard to narrow it down just to one thing because, as I say, I have such amazing colleagues that I'm proud to call my friends. But I would probably say my favourite thing is helping a patient feel relaxed on their anaesthetic journey, because, as you can imagine, pets come in, they don't know where they are, and I often try and explain to the students that it'd be like us being abducted by aliens. They don't know where they are, they don't know who you are, there's all of these strange sights, sounds and smells. They're terrified most of the time. It's very rare we get a patient who's relaxed. So getting the opportunity to bond with that patient in sometimes a short space of time is definitely rewarding, and seeing them relax, even just slightly, it's really a big benefit.
So you said there that you work with students, so you're quite heavily involved in the teaching side of it as well. Is that a part of your day?
I wouldn't say I'm as involved as the vets and nurses are, but certainly getting to help them understand things such as canine body language, or just even a bit of encouragement, which I think everybody needs at some point, and it's lovely to see them gaining confidence from the start of the week to the end of the week, and just helping them realising that one day they're going to be out in the world doing this. It's lovely just getting to helping them even just for a little bit.
That sounds really nice.
It is. It's definitely something that you wouldn't really get to do in a general practice, and I think working in a university that is very big on teaching both students and staff, it's just a really good atmosphere to be part of, because everybody is encouraged to get involved in teaching, and that includes myself.
What species do you work with, Sarah? Is it a whole range of species, or do you specialise in something?
It's mainly cats and dogs, particularly dogs though, however, they seem to take up the majority of our case log.
And is it mostly pets? People bringing their pets in?
Yes. So these are all referral cases from other vets who have referred that pet on for whatever reason. If it's maybe a bit more complicated and we have to do a bit more investigation work, then typically these are all very well loved pets that come to see us.
Okay, so mostly pets that have been referred on from other vets. Is there anywhere else you might see animals from?
We often see different patients from Edinburgh Zoo.
Oh, cool.
They, from what I understand, have their own vets and nurses, but occasionally we have had a koala, we had a penguin in recently as well for an MRI scan. So I think it depends on different factors, but every now and then we'll get to see something really interesting that you wouldn't normally see.
What's the most challenging part of your role?
That's a good question. I think the most challenging thing is juggling your priorities, and by that what I mean is you can have maybe a few different patients getting ready to be induced, and that includes different anaesthetists that need help. So it's how you divide your time into helping who needs that assistance first and foremost. So what patient needs help first. And thankfully, as I've mentioned before, I've got a really amazing team that I am really happy to work alongside with, and we all communicate with each other so we can all divvy up who needs to go where. But of course, being a busy department, it's not always as simple as that. So sometimes it just needs to be a case of coming together and saying, okay, who needs what done first, and people having to maybe wait for a little bit of time. It can also be tricky trying to overlap certain times as well. Obviously, if we have a patient coming to CT, other departments might need to use that CT as well. So that patient then gets put down on the list slightly. So it might mean that you have to change your times and maybe even change things if the case is cancelled completely.
Sounds like a role you need to be quite flexible in.
Definitely. It's one thing that we teach our students as well, not to be too disappointed if their case doesn't go ahead, because they could spend the previous evening reading up about the case. They've got all of these really good questions written down to ask the anaesthetist, and then they come in first thing in the morning and they're told that it's been cancelled for whatever reason. So we have to prepare for these things to happen, unfortunately.
It must be very hard not to become attached to the animals that you're working with.
Yes and no. It's one of those things, I think, in the profession you have to care for animals, but I think you have to do it in a healthy way. What I mean by that is you have to look after yourself, because compassion fatigue and burnout are very real things in the veterinary profession. So yes, you absolutely want to care for these animals in your care, and I always say, because I don't have any pets at the moment, that these cats and dogs are my honorary pet for the period of time I'm looking after them. But I'm well aware that sometimes things can happen, and I think ultimately, as long as you understand that you've done everything you can for that animal and made their journey in the hospital a bit more pleasant, ultimately that's all you can do for them.
And do you think it's quite important to have that personal connection with your patients, even if they're only with you like a short amount of time? Is that important to you?
Absolutely. Even if that patient's only in for a very brief period of time, that still plays a positive impact on them, because a lot of these animals have maybe had a negative experience in the vets through no fault of their own or for anyone else's fault. They don't understand what we're doing to them, and they just sometimes see this place as a scary place where painful things can happen. So if we can try and create an atmosphere where their needs are met and listened to as best as we can, and even just a gentle cuddle or listen to what they are saying, if they are wanting you to back away from them, if you listen to them, they will feel a bit more reassured. They're not going to be as stressed or scared hopefully next time. And if that keeps happening, if they're having to come in frequently, then hopefully it will slightly ease, even just a little bit, for future visits.
Yeah, Charli, I mean, you used to work in an aquarium, didn't you? I mean,
Yes.
did you ever have those connections with fish? Is that the same, do you think, or different?
Some of the bigger fish, I think can be. We had seals and otters. I worked in 2 different aquariums, so it's 2 different aquariums that had 1 seals and 1 otters. And definitely, I think working every day with the mammals, you can get that attachment. Yeah, fish are a bit different, I think. I don't know how to say it.
Not quite as expressive, maybe.
Yeah, less cuddly, for sure. Yeah, I love fish, but yeah, not quite the same as dogs, cats, or penguins, I think. So in case our listeners didn't know, Sarah, as well as being an amazing guest on our podcast, you've also written as a blog entitled A Day in the Life, and that's on our website. So listeners, please go and read that. Sarah, in the blog, you outline a few, I want to say case studies, but it feels kind of clinical, a few situations where you had a bit of problem solving to do, or a patient that needed a bit of extra attention. Can you maybe explain one of those for our listeners?
So with the dachshund that I mentioned in the blog, he had just come round from an anaesthetic and was still pretty sleepy, but he was awake enough to tell us he was unhappy about his situation. So in those circumstances, there's different things that we can do, and typically what the nurses will do is make sure that patient is comfortable. Obviously, they're the ones who are going to be assessing pain levels, making sure that there's nothing wrong with them. And with this little dog, he was just unhappy where he was, which is understandable. So in that situation, I went in to speak to him, and it turns out he just wanted a bit of a cuddle, which again is understandable in these situations. Some patients don't want that. They just want to go home and be with their owners. And like the dachshund, he just wanted a bit of reassurance that everything was okay, and he fell asleep, which was lovely. So no more singing.
Oh, it must be quite rewarding when you've got a patient that needs that little bit of extra attention, and you're able to give them that, and they're able to change their outlook on what's going on.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing, because in an ideal world, everybody would have designated time to give TLC to every single one of their patients. But in a veterinary hospital, and in general in a veterinary environment, that's not always possible, because there's going to be patients that need more urgent care. So if I have that opportunity where I'm able to give them a bit of stress relief, then I'll absolutely make the most of it, because if it means a patient can sleep's obviously very important for recovery, even if it is just for a short period of time. It's such a lovely thing for them to do, and see that sort of relaxation in their body is lovely as well for them, and hopefully makes their anaesthetic journey a bit more pleasant.
And you get cuddles as well. I mean, not every job you can go to work and get cuddles with puppies and cats and
Yeah, the cuddles are a definite bonus. It's a win-win for everybody.
Any bites? As somebody who's not that keen on dogs or cats.
Thankfully, not at the university. I have been absolutely fine. The one time I was bitten that was unintentional was when the patient was induced, so they were unconscious from the medication that was given to them. And I was making sure that the endotracheal tube, which is the tube that allows them to breathe whilst they're unconscious, the patient had a bit of a sort of, their jaw twitched. And as I was tying that in, I got a little nick on the finger, which was completely unintentional. So that was the only time I've been bitten here. So it was just a small thing, but no.
I'd assume that it would happen quite often, That's good to hear, I guess.
So in the past, I think one of the big things that has changed is our attitude towards patient behaviour and mental welfare. So in the past, what would have happened is you would have a patient coming in that maybe needs a booster, for example, and this patient would be terrified, doesn't like coming into the vets, but you have to give the booster. So you would restrain this patient in a way that wouldn't be considered ethical or fair in today's standards. And a lot of things have come around, such as fear-free, which allows us to assess patients' emotional welfare, which is just as important as physical welfare. And I think coming to that understanding has allowed us to take a step back and assess the situation, because if the patient needs something done, then fair enough, there's ways we can come around that in a kind method. But if it's going to cause so much stress, does that dog or cat need that booster today? Can it come back? Can we give it something so that its visit next time is a bit less stressful? I think that certainly is a contributing factor to the less amount of bites, because ultimately if you're going to keep persisting, a pet is going to unfortunately have to at one point bite because you're not listening to their needs.
All right, that's really interesting. I guess, yeah, I've learned a lot there. Thank you. And you're certified for this fear-free.
Yes.
So could you tell us a little bit more about that certification?
So fear-free is an initiative that is based in America and has come across from the UK to hopefully worldwide, as far as I'm aware. And what it is, it's a programme for not just veterinary professionals, but for dog groomers, for trainers as well. And it can incorporate different species, so not just cats and dogs, but we also include birds and equine as well. And what it does is it allows us to understand better things such as fear, anxiety and stress, and how we can combat them in a veterinary environment. As I mentioned earlier, these kind of situations are very stressful for our patients because they don't know what they're going through. Even for a human, going into a hospital environment is still stressful, and that's with the basis that we know we're in there to improve our health. But for pets who are sick or injured, it's a very scary time for them. They don't know what you're doing. So if we're able to change our body language, change how we assess patients, how we give them treatment, it will hopefully reduce their fear, anxiety and stress in a way that will not escalate things to a bite, or for them to even increase their FAS, as we call it, their fear, anxiety and stress. And there's different levels to this. So level 1 is mandatory for all members of the University of Edinburgh, including receptionists. I have just gone that extra couple of steps to get to elite. So it means that I just need to make sure that I do CPD to equate to the elite certification level. And it means that my knowledge of understanding patient welfare and behaviour is going to be current and up to date.
And is that something you've then taken on yourself to do, or was it expected from you in your role?
I wouldn't say it's expected. It's just something that I really enjoy learning about. Level 1 is expected for all members, but to go from then level 1 to 2, 3 and finally elite is just something I was really interested in. I have a big passion for behaviour, particularly canine behaviour, and if it can mean that my patients have a better experience whilst they're in our care, then I'm all for it.
Is this something that you're supported with by the university?
Yes, so thankfully Fear Free is something that the university supports for not just the staff but for students as well, and that's really excellent because what that means is when the students eventually graduate, and obviously we have students from all across the world, they'll take that knowledge and experience with them and pass it on when one day they'll have students themselves. So I think it's a really fantastic initiative, and I'm glad that it is supported by the university.
Yeah, it's really good to hear that you're supported in getting that qualification and even going above and beyond what the university is requiring of you, and that they're still supporting that. So that's really great.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a geek with behaviour stuff.
It really does sound like this job is your, what you've been wanting to do. It's your passion.
Yeah, it's definitely something that feels right for me. I feel this is where I've landed on my feet. I think it's just taken the right amount of time for me to arrive to where I am today. I think the experiences of my previous workplaces have helped me to become who I am today, and the university has helped me flourish in that career, I would say.
And you've recently been awarded the Associate Fellowship of the Higher Education Academy. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How was that as a process?
I loved it. Again, I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to things that appeal to me. And coming to the university, I realised that I really enjoy teaching. And what this allowed me to do was to mix my passion of understanding behaviour and helping teach, which was a newly discovered thing. So when I was doing my AFHA award, I was able to create 2 learning situations where I had final year students come and I would basically teach them in a different manner. So for example, one was a PowerPoint recording and the other was a hands-on project with a stuffed toy from IKEA. And I was able to use both of those situations to create a case file for my AFHA as to why I taught the way I did, and feedback from the students helped me learn what I could do better and how I can improve. And it was a really good experience. I was actually quite sad when it had finished.
Thanks for that, Sarah. I'm sure we have listeners who will be thinking about taking on that qualification in the future. So your point of view about the process will hopefully be helpful for them. Oh, I'm really pleased you have coffee as well, or at least a drink that you've got.
I think it's orange juice, but yeah.
Oh, I always feel like we should be sat here with like Technically Edinburgh mugs, just sitting. Not that you can see me at the minute, but that would be cool.
I'll pretend you are.
Yeah, so I mean, it sounds like your role is very busy. You've got all the clinical side and the bit of teaching that you're doing, and your sort of they're not really extracurriculum like qualifications, but your extra things on top. And as well as that, you are involved in quite a few committees and voluntary work as well. And in fact, you were actually shortlisted for the Contributions to Community Culture and the Environment Award last year. How do you manage balancing all that work? It's a lot. It gets busy, I imagine.
I don't think there's a definite answer for me as to how to balance it, because my clinical work, first and foremost, has to be my priority. Meetings can be rearranged, whereas patient care can't. So ultimately, it is just simply a case of, if I get a moment to check in with my colleagues, make sure that they are absolutely fine and don't need a hand, and if I get that time, I'll just pop away and do some admin work when I can. I enjoy helping with the committees. It's something that wasn't expected of me, but I enjoy giving back to the community and the university and to the students as well. So if I get that time, I can make time and do it. Some weeks it can just get very busy, but most of the time I do manage to find some time, because my colleagues are incredibly supportive of what I do, and most of the time I do just get a minute, but there's no definite rule for me. It's not like I can put in my diary and block off time and say, well, we can't induce that patient because I've got to do some work behind the scenes. They're all very understanding.
Animals always come first.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah. I have the same. I work with zebrafish, and I'm like, well, that'll wait until later. These guys need my attention now.
Yes, exactly.
How did you feel about being nominated for the Technician Award?
I always remember it was a Saturday morning, and I looked at my phone and I saw the email, and I genuinely had to read it twice to make sure that I was reading what I was reading. It was such a lovely surprise, because obviously I'm used to working with a fantastic group of technicians in the hospital, but bear in mind the university is such a massive place, and there's obviously other technicians who I don't know who work behind the scenes. And for me, being not just nominated but shortlisted was an amazing achievement, because somebody has taken the time to recognise what I do and actually nominate me. So I was very, very humbled by that nomination, and really grateful as well.
It sounds like it was really, really well deserved.
Thank you.
And how important do you think it is for technicians to be recognised in this way?
Very important. I think a lot of the time technicians, I have to say, including myself, sometimes go behind the scenes, and a lot of them don't particularly get noticed. There might be some roles technicians do that others don't know about. There's roles that I likely don't know about other technicians for the university. So I think this is a great way, particularly Technician Week, in showcasing the different talents, knowledge and skills that they have, and how they help contribute to the role that they do.
As well as contributing to your local community in the university, you also volunteer for a charity called Lifeboat. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. So Lifeboat is created from Not One More Vet, and Not One More Vet is a charity that was set up in 2014 after the suicide of Dr. Sophia Yin, who was a very big face in the veterinary profession. Unfortunately, we do have quite a high rate of suicide in the profession for multiple reasons, and Not One More Vet was created to help assist and mentor other vets. And what Lifeboat is an online, anonymous, peer-to-peer support system. I work with another 2 peers anonymously, and we can get people who come from the veterinary profession, and typically they are technicians, but in the past we've had to give support to vets when there's perhaps not been enough veterinary volunteers, and sometimes they have issues with home life. It can be related to work. Sometimes they just need a little bit of support with their anxieties, and it's a really good way for me to help get somebody from where they are into a better place, hopefully. And obviously I can't go into too much detail with individuals for privacy reasons, but getting to see some individuals from a really low point to a better place has just been an amazing thing to see. It's been fantastic over the last year, just still chatting with some people and knowing that they have come a long way since then.
Yeah, it's really inspiring, Sarah, hearing you talk about, the care you have for, the animals in your care and also your colleagues as well. I think that's great. If you kind of look back on your job, and what's the most rewarding part of it? What keeps you passionate? What keeps you coming into work every day?
I think it's a combination of both my colleagues and the unexpected. I had a first job at a kennels when I left high school before I went into the veterinary profession, and while it was lovely, it was very mundane for me. I knew then that I needed something to be a bit more exciting. So for me in the veterinary hospital, I never know what's going to come in. And even sometimes what some would consider the mundane, there can be twists in the day, there can be different things, and you just never know what you are coming into. As I've mentioned previously, we can have brain surgeries, lots of different things, and for me, a big thing as well is seeing the variety of different dog breeds and different species that we get, working with so many different people from all over the world with different professions. It's really exciting to get to working with different people from these backgrounds.
And we're almost out of time. I just want to ask you one last question that we're going to ask. If you could give one piece of advice to someone who might be considering a job as an anaesthesia assistant or in the same kind of career as yourself, what would it be?
I would say don't be afraid to try something. If it's something that you can do, go for it, because I think from my perspective, I'm technically an animal care assistant, and I've just become more specialised in this role. I've been able to do things that maybe not a lot of ACAs would consider as something that they can do, and this isn't just for the university, this is maybe more for the veterinary profession as a whole. If it's something you can do, just try it, ask, and if it's something that you're capable or don't think you're capable of, because to me, if you've tried and you failed, it's still better than sitting and going, I wonder if I had done that, if it would have worked out. If it's meant to work out, it'll work out.
And you've got to try lots of different things to find what it is that you want to do. That's amazing advice, Sarah. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to have you on. It's been really interesting listening to what you have to say about your job. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Sarah.
We did it! Thank you for listening to our first episode ever of Technically Edinburgh. And if you'd like to learn more about what a day in the life of an anaesthesia assistant is like, please do go and check out Sarah's blog, which can be found on our website. I'd like to say a huge thank you to Lee Murphy, Imogen Hurd and Nick Kelly for their help in getting this podcast started. And of course to our incredible guests. Recognition and visibility are two of the key areas of the Technician Commitment, an initiative led by the UK Institute for Technical Skills and Strategy. It's so important to us that we make sure that technicians behind the research get the recognition and visibility that they deserve, and we hope this podcast is one small step towards that goal. Technically Edinburgh is hosted and edited and produced by members of the University of Edinburgh Technician Steering Committee. The music in this podcast is from Pixabay.com. Please follow us and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on X at UOE Technicians, and don't forget to tell your friends and colleagues. Have us on obnoxiously loud in your lab so everyone can hear. Oh, and if you have any ideas for topics, would like to come along and chat with us, or even think you might like to have a go at hosting, please get in touch at technician.network@ed.ac.uk. Thanks again to our amazing guest, our brilliant co-hosts, and you for listening. See you next time.